What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the $99 Walmart laptop. So, for the price of a Windows activation key, what exactly is it that you get? Well, you get a very lethargic laptop that has a dual-core processor, 4 GB of RAM, and 32 GB of storage, with a touchscreen, a foldable touchscreen I might add, which is actually a very nice touch. Windows, of course, but it is also very, very, very outdated. I've been updating it for the past 3 days, and with that anemic little dual-core processor, that dual-core Celeron, it is not exactly a fast process, nor is it fun. So I have been waiting for the past 3 days for this thing to get the proper updates for it to actually be competitive with what I am going to be doing here. And if you have watched any of my previous videos, you know exactly what that USB is going to be for. So while I'm waiting for this to restart on its first set of updates, let's talk about the build quality. First off, it is absolutely flimsy, but since it is a small laptop, it is actually not all too bad. The trackpad is quite responsive, yet it feels pretty bad. It is a very budget-oriented trackpad, but it gets the job done. So if you don't have a mouse to quickly plug in, it is going to do the job. Now, the keycaps, on the other hand, they are very mushy, very spongy, but I have not seen any issues so far with not being able to use them. They are usable, but I wouldn't say that they are great for long-term typing. While they do look like they want to replicate what a MacBook would try to have here, it is definitely not on the same scale whatsoever. And yet again, that lethargic dual-core processor is taking a very, very long time. So for reference right now, it is 11 o'clock, and we are going to see how long exactly it takes for this to just install the update and restart. And I'm actually going to have to amend what I said. It is not 32 gigabytes of storage, it is 64. It is now about 5 minutes later, and we are still on 0%. It has restarted, but we are now working on updates. Please keep your computer on. And it's taken 11 minutes just to install the updates, not even to download them. Alright, let's get into Windows. And I'm also going to let it be known that I tried to log in immediately as soon as I stopped the last clip there, and it's been 5 minutes, and we're still not into Windows. Okay, and after another minute or so, it was able to get back into Windows. So now let's do a little bit of Windows exploration. This is a, I would assume, bone stock install of Windows. Let's go ahead and see what pulls up when we try to launch the task manager. And as you can see right here, immediately, we are pegged at 100% on the processor. Memory is at 71, disk is at 46, and slowly dropping. Network is at 0. So let's see what is taking up our precious CPU power. Hello. Ah, there we go. What in the world is this? That might be something that was previously in Windows before, but I have no idea. I've never once seen this before, and I had Windows up until about 6 months ago. That is the #1 thing maxing out our processor right now, as well as Microsoft Teams and Task Manager. So this processor is very, very underpowered, especially for the stuff that is being demanded by this OS. You would think that a budget system would be a little bit more aware of how budget they actually are, and not try to cram as much processing as possible on first boot. And you can see that we're still pegged at 100% across both of our CPU cores here on CPU 0, CPU 1, and we are about 3/4 of the way filled up on our memory, sitting at idle. So 3.8 gigabytes out of 4, and our disk is running back and forth between pegged and doing nothing. Let's go back to our processes and see what's maxing us out now. So I don't know what this MOUSO core worker process is, but that is definitely something that I'm not too familiar with, and like I said before, I have been working with Windows for a very, very long time. I've even worked with Windows Server for quite a while, and I have never once seen that process. So, I think it's safe to say that Windows 11 is really not suited for this laptop. So, let's go ahead and do a little bit of upgrading and get rid of all that spyware. And what I mean by that is we're going to get rid of Windows. Also going to note, never mind, it decided to turn off. Now let's see if we can get into the... Never mind, that was on me, I was hitting the wrong button. Apparently you're supposed to hit the escape key. As soon as that gateway logo comes up, you hit escape, and it's supposed to open up the BIOS. Ah, there we go. And now we are in our BIOS, and we can go ahead and get rid of Windows. So right here you see that we have our Windows Boot Manager. I'm going to go ahead and switch that over to our PNY. Gonna get rid of this altogether. No more Windows. Bye-bye. We don't like you. At least not on my channel. And we're going to save changes and exit. Now that looks very similar to, let's say, Supermicro or one of those similar BIOSes. So we're going to go ahead and start Linux Mint. Because that's what I like to use on my computer. Because Linux Mint is what I like to use on my own main computer. Yes, I know my desk is filthy, I haven't had a chance to clean, and my arm has actually been pretty messed up for the past few months, but we're not going to get into that right now. So let's see how long it takes for us to get into Linux Mint. We are on a fresh USB drive right here, as you can see, and it is 11:23. Oh, come on, focus. There we go, 11:23. So let's see how long that takes. And while I'm waiting, I'm just going to go ahead and use my $1 Wish mouse that I bought about 5 or 6 years ago, because I really don't like that trackpad. Not a fan whatsoever. So, now we got ourselves a mouse. And yes, this is how I would use it anyways, is with a mouse, because I really am not a fan of trackpads. It helps if you turn the mouse on. I went to go start recording, and the screen decided to shut off. We are in Linux Mint, or at least the installer USB, but it seems like it's acting a bit wacky with this laptop. Okay, seems it just went into sleep mode. Okay, it took a screenshot. I was pressing a whole bunch of buttons trying to do the brightness. Okay, now let's see if I can find the brightness. Alright, so here we are with the brightness slider in Linux Mint now. For reference, this is a Google Pixel 4 XL at about 65% brightness. Just as a point of reference, I know it's not really going to show up too well on camera. So let's see what we can do to max this screen out. I'd say it's about the same as the Pixel 4 at 65. So, not horrible. But not good either. But that's not what we're here for. We're going to go ahead and install. So I'm just going to go ahead and skip right through this process. If you want to see how to install Linux Mint on a machine, I will link a video down below. That way you can follow along if this is something that you are trying to do yourself to try to get a little bit more for your money out of this laptop. Okay, we're just about all set up installing Linux Mint, and we're going to see how it is once we get into the OS. And we are now completely done with Windows. Goodbye. Alright, now let's see how it looks when we start up the Task Manager equivalent on Linux Mint, and see exactly what it is that we're sitting at. That way we can get a good idea to compare and see how exactly it performs versus Windows on such low-end hardware. And we are in Linux Mint. Yeah, I know, I'm kind of ridiculous when it comes to this. Alright, gonna go ahead and log in, and we're gonna get System Monitor up, because that is the analogous to System Monitor on Windows. First login, and before I could even press record, it was already in Linux Mint before I could even do anything with Windows. Alright, let's start our first steps. I want to select my color, make it dark, and go with a modern layout. Oh, ooh. Okay. That's just applying everything. I'm just freaking out. Alright, let's get System Monitor up. Because this is the analogous that we would compare against. And let's go to resources. Now look at that. That is our CPU graph. We are sitting on a fresh install of Linux Mint. And here is our memory. We only have 1 gigabyte of memory being used on startup. I know, it sounds kind of ridiculous, doesn't it? But you gotta remember, Windows had this pegged all the way to 100% on the CPU. And we were sitting at almost 3.5 gigs of RAM, if I remember correctly. So this is extremely, extremely more responsive. Look at that. I was able to close it without it hanging up for 5 minutes. Okay, so we're running into our first snag on Linux. So it turns out they use some sort of proprietary network thing, some sort of proprietary network card. So let's see what we can get with network connections. Let's add one and see if there is anything here. Probably gonna go, oops, focus. Gonna go with Wi-Fi, create. Let's see. Not too sure about this one. This is a bit odd. But I know it had Wi-Fi before, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit more research, and then I'm gonna have to come back to this and see if I can reconfigure this. Now, I don't really recommend doing jank stuff like this, but sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. So I'm gonna actually try seeing if an update will do it, and I'm gonna do USB tethering to see if that can give us some sort of network, and see if I can actually get my network interface working. This does not have an Ethernet port, unfortunately, so I can't just plug it into my router. So I am stuck with the Wi-Fi route, or the Wi-Fi card that is in this laptop, which is most definitely proprietary. So I'm going to see if my phone can relay some of that sweet Wi-Fi back to this laptop to see if I can fix it. Okay, turns out I had to get pretty creative here. I used Bluetooth tethering on my phone that is connected to my Wi-Fi to connect to my laptop, which I had to right-click and have network access point selected. A bit of a weird one, but it looks like we should be up and running now. Let's see if a driver helps. Okay guys, it is now the next day, and I have finally got myself some Wi-Fi using the built-in NIC. So that was actually a giant pain in the butt. I had to do a little bit of kajiggering here. So I actually found this website right here, which I'll link down below if you're following along with this video. I would say this is a godsend, so shout out to LW Finger for providing all of these drivers for all this niche hardware. So now I have all of the wireless working, and yeah, I was using mobile broadband for a little bit over Wi-Fi, which is a bit weird, but it had to do its job. It got it working, and as you can see here, I have my generic kernel and generic kernel driver installed. Had to use make, GCC, and all that good stuff that you're probably only going to use a couple times if you're a very basic user. But I had to download the zip file from the GitHub website, and had to basically follow a few simple instructions, and it just started working. So it looks like we are good on the $100 laptop Wi-Fi front now. And just to show you that I'm not messing around, I'm now connecting to my Wi-Fi. And there we go, if it would focus. Come on, focus. There we go. So now I can apply all my updates and get back to you once we start actually getting into the OS. So I did fail to mention... Hi there. I did fail to mention how exactly I found that driver. Well, I actually went and took the laptop apart and found the chip inside of this laptop. Just took off the panel here, and it was the little tiny chip that was about right here. And it's only about that big, so it was very hard to see. And it has a little tiny crab on it. If you have really good eyesight, you'll be able to see a little tiny etched crab on top of a little tiny it looks like a microcontroller, but that is actually our Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So I took that off and found the model number, and I used that with just a quick Google search, or rather DuckDuckGo, because I'm a privacy-oriented person, but nonetheless, found this GitHub page and downloaded it and pushed it over through Bluetooth. And following the instructions on this page, I was able to get the Wi-Fi working. So, if you wanted to know how you can find it if you are using a different laptop that has a similar issue, all you have to do is just take this off and look for what looks like a NIC. Alright, so now the updates are applied and it is rebooted, and as you can see, I have lost Wi-Fi again. So what I did was I took that package that I downloaded from GitHub and moved it over to my documents folder, and now I'm creating a bash script. So this is just to automate the process that is on the this is to automate the instructions that is on the GitHub page. So as you can see, I got make, sudo make install, sudo modprobe -v 8723du, which is, that's the model number of our controller here. And I'm gonna go ahead and save that. Now I'm gonna open this in the terminal. I'm gonna do sudo sh, what did I call it? Wi-Fi tab, and it's going to be the Wi-Fi driver installer.sh. Going to put in our password. And now this is just going to automate the process that I had to do with the instructions on the GitHub page. And if all goes well, by the end of the running process, I should have Wi-Fi again. Laptop is still a bit slow, but it is so much more usable on Linux. So much more responsive. Alright, now our driver is installed, and Wi-Fi is on automatically, all automated with that bash script. So the reason I had to do that is because every time the kernel is updated, it no longer has that module installed in the kernel. So with this driver, it actually patches the kernel and puts in the driver, because it is a driver level kernel. So now that we automated that process, it's as simple as just doing this command right here, sudo sh wi-fi driver installer.sh. And if you'd like to see that, here's the contents. Just a very, very simple script, nothing crazy, and it gets the job done as you watched right then and there. And I got it in real time, probably gonna speed up the footage just so it doesn't take all that long, because it was about a good 3 minutes that I stood there just watching it. But as you can see here, it is now working and we have Wi-Fi once again. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and make sure that our system is to our liking. Going to go ahead and get rid of that. Ooh, that's nice that they include that now. It used to not be the case. Don't like that one. There we go, Papyrus. That is my favorite. Alright, everything looks good. And I'm going to change this to the Dark Aqua Legacy. Where is it? There it is. Alright, now everything is to my liking, and this is now all set up and looks fantastic. And the system is nice and responsive, very quick. Everything is going very, very smoothly. Don't like the corner bar, so that is going bye-bye. There we go, now we are at our full potential for this laptop, and this is absolutely amazing. I love it. It is super light. Let's see what the system monitor says. Let's go pull up our resources and see exactly how loaded our processor is. And this is with all updates installed. We are sitting very, very low in CPU utilization. So, you might be asking, why would you buy a super cheap laptop like this? Well, for starters, come on, get out of there. The reason I wanted this laptop in particular is because of how good or how low powered the processor is. Now, why might I want a very weak and low powered processor? Well, this little reason right here. If it'll show. So as you can see, with the usage that's being used right now, it has a 9.5 hour runtime. That's not 100% accurate. It may differ depending on load, but going by the load that is on the system right now, it will give me 9.5 hours of runtime. And I have kind of verified this. I wasn't even going to bother doing it with Windows because it was just so sluggish and slow, and the processor was maxed out all the time, as you saw in the beginning of the video. So I think that this is going to be the more permanent mainstay on this laptop. As you can see, it is super responsive. If I want to get some apps, it doesn't take very long for it to launch up. And of course, this is an 802.11n Wi-Fi NIC, so it's not going to be the fastest in terms of download speeds, but it will get the job done. Okay, so now I installed Stacer, which is kind of like an analogous program to CCleaner. Very easy to use. You just select everything that you want to clean and put in your password. Then it cleans up temporary files, packages, crash reports, and application logs and stuff like that. So it's very similar to how CCleaner works, but except it's free and it doesn't require you or bug you for a license every 5 minutes. And since we're on the topic of CCleaner and Stacer and all that, let's actually see how much storage we have. As you can see here, we have 45.2 gigabytes remaining out of a 64 gigabyte installation. So that is plenty of space left usable for installing some programs, and it also has a little micro SD card slot on the side here, which I believe, oh, not this side, on this side, which if I remember correctly can be expanded all the way up to 2 terabytes, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm not 100% sure on that. I would have to double check with the manual. Actually, let's do that right now. So I know for a fact that this is everybody's favorite reading right here, the user manual of anything ever. Just kidding, nobody actually reads this stuff. But it does hold some information that you would otherwise not be able to know just by reading it off the box, or just browsing the internet on a niche product like this that nobody really actually cares about. So for literature, we have our what appears to be a user manual of actual paper. Then we got some flashcards in case you can't read, or can only read very little. But this does not give much information. And of course they want everybody to use their partner Microsoft for this, because you bought the laptop for the same price as a Windows activation key. But we're not doing that, we're on Linux. And it seems like they just include a whole bunch of other garbage that really nobody's going to use. Our first person that can redeem this code can use this for Kidomi. Never heard of it before, but if you want to use it, go ahead, it's right there. And of course it has technical support. And thank Moo. A bit corny. Okay. So let's see if our actual reading piece here has any actual information. Well, within minutes I already broke the first rule in this pamphlet. This is on the first page. Do not disassemble, open, crush, or incinerate, paint, shred, or insert foreign objects into your product. I already disassembled this because I wanted to know what the chip was. But as you can see, the thing works pretty fine. Then of course in every manual, 1-year limited warranty, blah 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 blah. And then Spanish. Okay, so this is basically useless. So it doesn't tell you any information on what capacity you could actually put your SD card, or what you could put in the SD card slot. No information on that whatsoever. But let's see if it even says a version. Nope, it just tells you how to insert it. Okay, not very handy. So if I went and bought myself an 8 terabyte SD card, chances are it might not work. But I don't have $700 for an 8 terabyte SD card, or know if they even exist, so I guess that is a problem to cross when I get there. And now for what we're really going to be using... I don't like this. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Now that looks a little bit better now that the title bar is gone, and let's just make this even more better by getting rid of pocket because that's annoying. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and see how these speakers sound. Here we go. That's a good looking video right here. That looks like somebody that you should subscribe to. So, picture quality is actually not too bad. It has a pretty great angle, so I get no discoloration going from top to bottom or side to side. So this touchscreen is actually pretty usable. Oh, actually it looks like we got a little bit of fading going down below, but it seems like top down is fine and side to side is fine. I don't know why it has that weird effect going from down below, but that doesn't seem to be too much of an issue. So let's hear how the speakers sound. So we're going to use the function key, and it is personally one of my favorites, and it's also one of the easiest to get into. So let's get started by plugging our two USB drives right on in. So they're not too bad, just a little bit rattly for my liking, but chances are I'm not going to be using the main speakers for watching YouTube videos or movies all too often. This is actually a laptop that I bought for myself so I can start my business. So this is the major point of my business flow, because I'm going to be doing systems administration and things of the like. So I wanted something that had really good battery life, something that was going to be very usable, something that I could use and take with me everywhere. That's why it is very small. So I wanted to be able to fit in that backpack right there with no issue. Don't mind the mess, that's all the cat stuff. But very compact. It's a little hefty for its size, but I'm not really too worried about it because it's so small. And the versatility of being able to flip it over is quite handy. Even though this hinge is a little stiff, I feel like it will loosen up after some time. And let's see how well the touchscreen does. Okay, so looks like we're able to use our touchscreen very well. It's a very light touch, so nice and... Oh, shut up. We don't want to hear that video right now. So it is a very, very nice touch. So I was expecting it to actually be... never mind. They got a... Let's see. Okay. Let's see if we open up the terminal. Nice light touch. We want to launch Stacer from the menu bar. Real nice touch. Can just ever so lightly touch it, and it seems to be working. I'm not sure how gestures work on a touchscreen laptop because this is actually my first ever touchscreen laptop to begin with, but so far I'm actually pretty impressed. For a budget laptop nonetheless, this is actually pretty nice. I remember touchscreens from a few years back even, that you had to really press on them to get them to actually make contact so they would register the press. But this is very nice and light. I don't have to really press too hard. It's just a little difficult to aim because it doesn't have that proximity, I guess it would be. But let's see, if I just go super light with barely any touch. Barely any touch, and it can register no problem. So far, my impressions of this laptop are actually pretty great, but the biggest problem is what's right here. Windows. Get rid of Windows if you are buying this laptop for sure, because at the beginning of the video I showed you how slow it was and how pegged it was, and it is always constantly downloading updates, and running those updates maxes out the processor on this. With Linux Mint here, if you want updates, you just click on that little update thing, refresh, and see if there's any updates for you. It's on your terms, it doesn't run in the background, and you don't have a whole bunch of spyware telling the government or anybody that you don't want to know what you're doing. So let's say I wanted to go and buy something off of Amazon that was a little bit sketchy. Well, at least Microsoft ain't gonna know, but Amazon will. So far, this is actually, this is pretty nice. I'm very pleased with this $99 laptop, and I can say that you will be too, as long as you get rid of this. This is the number one drawback. Oh, it's even registering a touch there. That's weird. Oh, that's a button! Oh, that is really cool. I have never seen that before. So that works as a Windows key. That's very interesting. Check this out. It opens up your menu. That is awesome. I did not realize that. I'm gonna have to replace that with a tux sticker. But still, that's actually a pretty nice touch. I was not expecting that. But like I was saying before, that is the #1 problem right there. Windows. Absolutely horrible on this laptop. Throw Linux on it, save yourself the headache. So, something else that I noticed before when I had this plate off that quite caught my attention. Here, let me get this off real quick. I will also add that it is kind of a pain to get this part off. But once you get your fingers up under there... Oh, come on. Let's use the good hand here. Oh, come on. Let's go. Come on, let go. There we are. Alright, so the interesting part. Oh, and if you were wondering earlier what chip I was talking about for the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, it is this one right here. The details are not going to show up very well on the camera, but there's that little crab that I was talking about earlier. That's the Realtek logo. But the thing that really caught my eye was not that. It was actually this right here. So let me remove this sticker. And those of you that are familiar with hardware will know exactly what this looks like. There we go, sticker is now removed. But if you take a good look right here, and look very, very closely, right here, these are actually trace points for an M.2. So at some point, they were planning on putting an M.2 SSD in here, but instead opted for the eMMC. I'm guessing because that was cheaper, but it looks like the traces are all there. So in theory, which I am going to test this theory at some point, so stay tuned for that. Go ahead and subscribe if you don't want to miss that video. I am going to try to solder on an M.2 slot, because we have basically everything else here, and we also have the traces, we just don't have the connector. And all you have to do is make sure that you have all of your pins soldered to the correct pin without bridging anything. So you need flux, you need heat, you need a whole bunch of stuff just to make sure that you're accurate with your soldering, and so you don't join any of these pins together and possibly destroy the motherboard. So I'm going to try that at some point and see if it works. That would be very interesting if that actually is functional, but they just decided to omit it. Well guys, there you have it. That is my review of the $99 Walmart laptop from Gateway. Surprisingly, a very decent little machine for not a lot of money. But, like I said, get rid of Windows. Well, if you guys liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and do me a favor and hit that little button right there. This is Arch, and I will see you in the next video.